The Avengers are not to be taken lightly. A powerful suit of armor and an augmented super soldier that can arm wrestle a helicopter is only the beginning. There's also Thor and the Hulk. In order for something to truly be a challenge to the Avengers and to the rest of the MCU, you're going to need something really powerful. In Thanos, they found just that. A character so powerful, it's almost ridiculous. So let's look at how Thanos' power was off the charts. Beats up the Hulk. The phrase, "we have a Hulk," is enough to make Asgardian gods both puny and stacked alike pause. In previous encounters, villains like Loki and Ultron have skipped over trying to fight the Hulk and instead opted to trying to get the Hulk to fight the Avengers. Unfortunately for the Avengers, it's not that hard to get the Hulk to smash, and he may very well use any excuse to smash you. After watching the Hulk literally punch out his giant space leviathans during his failed invasion of Earth, it's understandable that Loki thought having a Hulk would be enough to stop the Mad Titan on his march to unify the Infinity Stones. As far as aces in the hole go, it's a pretty good one. And initially, it worked as expected. Aim the Hulk at something that needs smashing and the Hulk smashes. The problem is that Thanos was no normal threat. In short order, Thanos turned the tide on Hulk and started his own beatdown. This was no Hulkbuster armor fight either, where persistence and cooperation eventually subdued the Hulk. It was a tactical victory where the Hulk was completely dominated, both in strength and skill. Super Power Stone. Once Thanos got to collecting the Infinity Stones, he went to using them right away. In the lead up to Infinity War, just one Infinity Stone was enough to inspire a whole adventure. When Ronan the Accuser got a hold of the Power Stone, he was able to pose a threat to the planet of Xandar, which has the distinction of being the home of the Nova Corps, the unofficial police of the galaxy. It's no small thing. Even with a Power Stone-equipped hammer, Ronan was still held up by the Nova Corps and the Guardians of the Galaxy with a dancing Peter Quill. Once Thanos has that stone, however, it becomes a total wrecking machine with just a closed fist. He shattered a moon and then dropped it on a planet. Crash test dummy. Thanos had a small group of people he kept referring to as his children. They weren't his children, really. Mostly, they were people he orphaned and then raised really harshly so that they'd grow up to be loyal soldiers. One of the most loyal and determined, until she wasn't, was his daughter Nebula. Sibling rivalry is hard, especially when the parent encourages and then rewards it. This was the case with Nebula and Gamora, punishing every loss against Gamora by replacing part of Nebula and then generally being mean to her. Eventually, this bred anger and resentment towards both Thanos and Gamora, which Nebula dealt with in a particular manner. Nebula doesn't just land her spacecraft, she smashes it into whoever she hates the most, which is exactly what she does to Thanos on Titan. That's not the only structure that Thanos takes to the dome during that fight. Iron Man drops a whole structure directly on top of Thanos like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. In a short span of time, Thanos takes on a giant structure and a speeding spaceship and just gets up and starts fighting again. There's Resilient, and then there's Thanos. Unreal Stone. When Jane Foster falls through a portal during a convergence of the 9 realms, she sticks her hand somewhere it ought not to be. It was all glowing red, smoky, making like crazy noises, and under a giant stone that didn't seem to have any visible means of support. Who sticks their hand in there? Anyway, it turns out that Malekith was dreaming small when it came to the reality stone that was embedded in the ether. But then again, so was Thanos. With the reality stone in the gauntlet, Thanos used it to mess with the mind of his daughter and her team of galactic misfits by making them think they were there in time to stop him, but they weren't. He also uses it to make his story about Titan to Doctor Strange a massive PowerPoint presentation. Has his own Avengers. Now, like we already mentioned, Thanos has a collection of people he calls his children, and that's not limited to the dueling sisters. There's also a whole group of people with a pretty spectacular set of powers all on their own. Ebony Maw has nearly effortless telekinetic powers, strong enough to get the best of the Sorcerer Supreme. Cull Obsidian is not only a giant rock monster, but he has his own sweet hammer. Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight are able to stand up to Scarlet Witch and Vision, two super powerful Avengers on their own. own. Despite all of that, of course, the Avengers are able to prevail. Cull Obsidian goes for a ride in Wakanda's force field, Corvus gets a taste of his backstabbing ways, the Maw falls victim to movie references, and Proxima ends up in the path of one of those giant spiked wheels. So gross. Still, a team like that seems like overkill for someone as powerful as Thanos. Backup army. One of the reoccurring criticisms of comic book movies and MCU movies in particular is having the movies end with the heroes fighting a sea of faceless enemies. All 4 Avengers movies have ended with Earth's mightiest heroes facing off against a horde of threats, from the Chitauri in New York to Ultron drones in Sokovia to the Outriders in Infinity War. When you're the big bad guy, it pays to have an army of faceless soldiers, as it gives you time to monologue. Since no one likes monologues as much as Thanos, except maybe Ebony Maw, he has a backup horde to his horde just in case. It turns out that both the Chitauri and the Outriders are on Team Thanos. Generally speaking, one giant swarming army is enough, but Thanos doesn't do things just enough. Nova Corps. For the moviegoers, it might not seem like it, but the Nova Corps are a force to be reckoned with in the cosmic end of the Marvel Universe. How powerful is the Nova Corps? In the comics, when they're decimated, the last surviving member gives his suit to someone on Earth, and they become a superhero that's able to hang with Spider-Man and Thor. Now imagine that there's a whole army of them. The Nova Corps is powerful enough that, after the attack on Xandar by the Power Stone-equipped Ronan the Accuser, it's decided that the best place for such a powerful object is with the Nova Corps. The decimation of Xandar and the Nova Corps happened off-screen. In fact, there are 2 groups of super beings we don't get to see Thanos laying waste to, because Infinity War opens with the already defeated Asgardians. Universe-wide teleportation. Getting around in the cosmic end of the Marvel Universe, whether it's in the comics or the movies, is a tricky proposition. The way the MCU gets around the speed limit of the universe problem, that being light speed, is by going through a series of portals that then send the ships through folds in space and time, allowing them to cover massive distances. Unfortunately for Earth, we're right between the 2 portals, one that leads to the Kree and the other that leads to the Skrulls, putting the Earth in the middle of the Kree-Skrull War. There are 2 other ways to break the speed limit of the universe in Marvel. One is the power cosmic, meaning you find a way to get around the rules of the universe, and the Space Stone in the MCU. These seem to act as the same thing, so since Captain Marvel got her powers from the Space Stone, she can go faster than light. With the actual Space Stone, Thanos doesn't have to work that hard, able to open folds in space and time at will. Supervillain's a supervillain. It takes a lot to become an arch-rival. While you have to be a real pain to a hero to be their nemesis, all you have to do to get on their bad side is bad things. But to be a supervillain to supervillains, you have to be a special kind of bad. Ultimately, that's what Thanos is. It's not just the Xandarians or the Guardians of the Galaxy who are on the roguish side. Thanos is also the bad guy to bad guys, Ronan and Loki. As soon as Ronan has the Power Stone, he's quick to tell Thanos where he can stick his ambitions, swearing to take care of Thanos as soon as he's done destroying Xandar. He's able to recruit Nebula to the cause, but is stopped by the Guardians before he gets the chance. Given what happened to Loki when he tried the very same thing, we're guessing it might not have gone well. Go to sleep. It's not clear in the Marvel Cinematic Universe exactly what the story is with Mantis. In the comics, she's an Earthling who comes into contact with a Kree priest who thinks that she'll become the Celestial Madonna by encountering the last of the Kotati, a plant-like species that the Kree tried to kill off after losing a competition for their planet held by, of course, the Skrulls. Earthling Mantis is a martial artist who gains empathic powers with plants because the Kotati are plant people. That's pretty different than the MCU. There, she's introduced as a ward of the Celestial Ego. One of her main jobs, aside from putting people at ease by being the gentlest creature in the MCU, is to help the planet-sized beings sleep. Celestials are some of the oldest and most powerful beings in the universe, but with Thanos, she struggles and loses her grip when Star-Lord jumps the gun and starts punching the Purple Menace to find out what happened to Gamora. Those are just some of the ways that Thanos turns his power up to 11. What ways did you notice Thanos brought the heat to the MCU? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to CBR while you're at it. It won't make you powerful, but you'll get powerful content. Thanks for watching.